Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us here today. Today, we're going to talk about MAXYMO and the MAXYMO app. It's one of 3 of the Middleton Technology apps that you can find on middletontech.com. The MAXYMO app also can be found on maxymoapp.com. I have a panel of people who use the MAXYMO app today. I'm going to be bringing them on. But first, I just wanted to talk to you guys real quick before we just dive into MAXYMO about the other 3 Middleton apps. So if you're not familiar, Middleton Technologies has Flex Alert for people who work Amazon Flex. It has the driver utility helper, commonly known as the DUH app, DUH, which does DoorDash. And then they also have MAXYMO, which we'll be talking about today, that does Uber, Lyft, Grubhub, and UberEats. So I'm going to put on a video real quick here, just kind of showing a little bit about MAXYMO, and then I'll come back with the panel and we'll get started.
Driver that drives for Uber and Lyft. Joe currently uses multiple phones to efficiently drive for Uber and Lyft. But this can be a pain at times and very unsafe. That was until Joe found MAXYMO, the rideshare app that automates Uber and Lyft ride requests. MAXYMO will use the filters set by Joe, like time, distance, and passenger rating, to determine which rides are best suited for Joe. When a ride request comes in, Joe doesn't need to worry. MAXYMO will automatically accept the ride request that matches his filters, and then turn off the app that isn't currently on a ride. Once Joe finishes the ride, MAXYMO will turn everything back on. This will allow Joe to focus more on his passengers and driving safe.
Okay, everybody. So that was a quick little intro on MAXYMO. It kind of breaks it down a little bit. We will go much more in depth. If you have questions today, please, obviously, most of the people who would join in, I know we're running a little early today than I would normally do this live stream. Normally I'm in the, in the evening time when I would do this. So, but if you can post your questions, I do have breaking points where I specifically have to check for some questions and not move past that point and check that all you guys are taking care of, those of you that are here. And speaking of which, thank you, Gary, for being here, Simon, Katie Rideshare Lisa, Bud Soda, Mort. Okay, we got some people from different parts of the country. Good. So let me move on to the next piece here, introducing my panelists. So I'm gonna introduce Bruce, Brian, and John, and then I just want them to quickly say what market they drive in, how long they've been using MAXYMO, and which of the 4 platforms that MAXYMO services do you work on. And Bruce, we can start with you.
All right. So I'm in Lynchburg, Virginia. It's a average market, smaller market. We do have 5 colleges in the area. Liberty University is the largest. And so we have a lot of students that need rides and things like that. I've been using MAXYMO for 2.5 years. I use MAXYMO totally for doing Uber and Lyft. I do rideshare only. I don't do any food delivery. I did try Rodeo. I did some stuff, delivering things there, and it was okay. But I would rather have a conversation with a passenger than carry a quarter pounder up 3 flights of stairs. So that's what I do. I've done over 12,000 rides now. Okay.
And Brian, how about you?
Eugene, Oregon market. I operate MAXYMO for about the last 2 years. Primarily with Uber Eats, as that works. We have locally my menu helper that I keep tabs of manually, along with personal travel and Rodeo. So, and I'm about to step away because I got a delivery up the hill here, up the steps here.
Do what you got to do.
So I'll be right back.
Okay. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Hi. You're lucky you caught me just as I was coming home because the wind is just getting really bad out there, and I just I was done delivering.
Yeah. You got bad weather in Syracuse right now?
We only got like 4 inches of snow, but it's the wind.
Yeah.
That makes it worse because it's like 19 degrees, but it feels like it's 4 because of the wind.
Right. So Lisa, how can you tell us how long you've been using how long you've been using the MAXYMO app and which of the platforms you're using it for? Because I know you're kind of new to it.
Maybe 4 days.
Okay. I didn't mean that new, but okay. No, that's actually great. That's actually great for this.
Gary, when did I get my phone?
She's the rookie.
John's like,
I am.
I'm not the
so if there's anything I need to know, this is going to be the good time to let me know.
Okay, awesome. So John, what about you?
So I've been using MAXYMO for about 3 weeks now, and I was sold on it like the first night that I used it. It really, really made a difference. I use it on Uber and Lyft, and I'm experimenting on it with UberEats. I typically don't do delivery just because the insurance situation in New York and doing delivery is insane. You basically have to carry commercial or business insurance to get any kind of coverage. But the reason I'm experimenting with is because I'm planning to start delivering in the summer on an electric scooter, and so you don't need insurance for that. And it's been pretty helpful as far as kind of filtering out any Uber Eats. So in my market, Uber Eats isn't that popular. It's like 95% DoorDash. But what happens is the town that I live in, Saratoga Springs, we have a horse racing track. And so when the horse racing track starts up, people come from downstate and they expect to use Uber Eats, and the market just explodes for Uber Eats. And it's all downtown stuff at hotels, at rentals, and they're short trips. So it'll be really interesting as I'm experimenting with it over the summer.
Yeah. Okay, well, I will wait 1 second while Brian gets in the car, because Bruce and Brian are the ones with the most experience on here with the app. So this next question, and again, to those of you joining us, what's up, Roy? What's up, Thomas? What's up, Cynthia? What's up, Bud Soda? You're late, Bud Soda.
And
and
he was on a delivery.
I know. No, I saw that Gary's already given him.
Crap.
Gary's already catching him for it. No, you're good. Just Bud Soda. No, you don't need to go home. Just stay in the chat though, because you always have good questions. So post them in the chat. That'll be good enough. Thank you though. So yeah, if you didn't catch it, please post any questions, and I will take occasional breaks and get to them. But so the first thing I want to speak about here are the features: app switching, filter request, hands-free, and GPS tracking. I know that you can go to the website and you can just read the bullet points, but Bruce, you have a ton of experience on this app. Can you kind of break down what those are and how much they help?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me, I hope you don't say I look 71, but I'm 71 years old. I've been a geeky tech guy for a long time. And the first thing that drew me to this was just having the automation take place, not having to reach up and touch my phone. That was the biggest thing for me. And whenever there was an issue where Uber or Lyft would change their app and it would create a little hiccup for MAXYMO, and I just want to say Gary is so incredibly good at responding so quickly. His customer support is just amazing. But when I would lose that ability on the app, it was such a horrible experience. I mean, I just couldn't wait, to get an update. And Gary would send me a beta version to test out. And I was like, oh, it's so great to have this. So the biggest thing for me is setting it up, putting the filters in. The main filters I use is, how far do I want to drive? How long will it take me to get to the person? I like the airport filter. If I'm at the airport, I can click that little green button, go into airport mode, which means if I get a ride at the airport and I'm driving down there to pick them up at the terminal and they cancel, it doesn't take off the other platform until I actually start the ride that I got, the ride request that I got. And I do like the mile tracking thing. I've been using Stride tax app for a long time for tracking my miles and stuff like that. But sometimes it doesn't work. And I cannot tell you how many times I am so thankful that I had the mileage tracking on MAXYMO. So I always compare those things too, because I want to make sure that everything is working right and that I'm posting things right. So, but the automation for me is just really, really the key thing that I like. I feel it keeps me safer. And, and I have certain things that I do. I have certain settings and filters that I use at different times of the day. So I'll adjust things. Sometimes I'll turn off the auto accept when I'm getting close to when I want to be home and that sort of thing. So it's just, I think the safety of it is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. Brian, how about you with the 4 main features like the website lists, and then there's a bunch of sub tiers under them, which is app switching, filter requests, hands-free GPS tracking. Like what do you got to say? What are your favorite parts of it? Like, or what can you add to so that people understand more like what these do a little bit deeper?
Well, the GPS tracking is a plus. However, every now and again, you may find that you go jumping 3-4 miles out of your way and come back because it's finding another tower. But that's the cell tower stuff for you. But as far as the official tracking with UberEats, and it took me a while to fine tune the amount for the area that I was looking for. Then I got to a point where I just had the auto decline turned off, but just because I was needing earnings. It's like I was.
So you got to a point where I mean, that's a good thing to know though.
Then I turned it back on.
It's a good thing to know though. You usually use it. You got to a point where, hey, I need to be seeing some more offers, so I'm just going to turn it off for a minute.
Yeah, and still
or whatever.
Yeah, because I also locally we have my menu helper, which is my primary source, which isn't trackable. So that's where I don't have the auto accept turned on. That Joe was like, why don't you turn that? I was like, well, I have this other service that's primary, that if it comes up, that will always be precedent. Even if it's a 2 cans of alcohol for $4.95, which thankfully he hasn't ordered in a while.
Okay.
But
hey, so Lisa missed 3 days on the platform.
Come on, like 4.
Okay, 4. Because this is great. What are you stoked about so far? What's the first thing you're stoked about? What's the thing that you're kind of like, wait, what's going on? Or you're struggling with it all?
Well, I love that it weeds out the DoorDash orders. I was sick and tired of decline. I mean, like you'd have to hit decline, then you'd have to hit this, and then you'd have to hit this, and then you'd have to hit another button just to decline one order. And I'm getting all these $2, $2.50 orders. I mean, the most is like a $4 order. Like I'm just getting sick and tired of declining the orders. And that's when I got on a different platform. But since I got on started using the app, I weed that out. I have it where I can see the order for like 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. So if I decide I want to take it because I've been sitting too long or something, and I'll take it if I'm in the area. But I don't see those orders anymore. They just decline. And what I like about it is the orders that I've noticed. Ones that are going to auto decline for me won't speak, but I have it so it speaks to me. And the orders that goes through my filter that for me to take, it will tell me the order and the miles and everything else. So I'll know that an order is coming that I'm going to take when I'm on my other phone with the other app. Does that make sense?
It does. And Gary, thanks you so much for the extra plug on Duh. But can we ask you about MAXYMO?
But I started with the Duh app.
Oh, you're not using MAXYMO?
No, I am for Uber Eats.
Okay.
Okay. The first thing I found out, now when Gary was helping me, mind you, I had worked all night, worked all morning. So I was like this in bed doing this with all what he was telling me. And I'm like, why am I still seeing these $2.25 orders on Uber Eats? Why am I seeing these long distance? I could have sworn I changed my filter. You can put your filters to anything you want, but if you don't have the auto decline on, I found they go through.
Yeah, well,
that is the biggest thing I found so far. But I've actually set my.
Oh, you mean if you set all your parameters,
but you don't have the auto decline on?
It's still going to show you. Yeah, okay.
But what I did is I set my filters a little bit higher with Uber Eats because of the tip baiting thing. So that way I can see which direction that the order is going in. If it's going west,
kind of hard to see.
I know that there's a 99% chance that it won't be tip baited. If it's going east, then I know that's probably it. So I've set my filters just a little bit higher than I did with the DoorDash just because of the tip baiting. Because I haven't done Uber Eats in my market in, 6 months, 7 months, just because of it. I don't trust a lot of people, so I'm able to look at my map to see which way it's going, whether or not I'm going to accept the order.
We apologize to those of you in East Syracuse who are low tippers, obviously.
You mean no tippers?
System blocking the tips.
No
I'll
tippers?
notice that all of a sudden tips will just not show up, and then all of a sudden, like an order, you say, "Oh, here's the rest of the order. Here's the full earnings."
Well,
but it's a hit and miss.
I often talk to a lot of people about tip baiting, and I know that really, I mean, like it does happen a lot, but it seems to not happen to the people I know. However, on Uber, you can completely tip bait. You don't even have to have a reason. You can just pull it out at the end.
Yeah.
And that is the thing about Uber is that with Uber Eats, I don't know, I'm guessing the passenger side is the same, but with food, customers have up to an hour to change their tip amount.
Right.
I've actually had it to where they reduced it. There was one time I understood. It was late, and she was frustrated. And that's okay. She still got her food, though.
Right.
But I could see why. Other drivers would be so upset about not getting that tip. It's like, to me, she got her food, regardless.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I Uber in that area. So, in that part of Syracuse, so I know they don't really tip. I mean, I had for Lyft, I had a $300 or $150 guarantee plus $150 if I did 20 rides. I ended up with that week with $302. In 20 rides, I got $2 tip.
And I wasn't alluding to that they tip bait. I was alluding to that they're bad tippers.
No, they just don't tip. So they're going to put a tip on there to get their food, and then they're just going to take the tip away when they're done, when they get their food.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why I go through and with my data entry, I've changed it up now for 2022. Is that I'm put in the projected earnings, the delivery total, and then whatever, especially with Uber, then whatever the tip was, then the balance, whatever that was the delivery fee, regardless of whether it's one delivery or two. And that way I kind of have an idea when somebody's either added or removed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adjusted the tip. It's not just kind of a general understanding. It's more of a just learning.
Yeah.
But you can't guarantee that these
excuse me
are going to cooperate all the time. And there are times when I've had it where with Uber, I'll have to actually go in, turn off the filters, and then turn them back on in order for it to cooperate because they've mucked with something in their code.
That's just technology, though. Sometimes we
And
got to
that's
shut
technology
an
that
app
they
and
could do
turn it
one-
back. And
One
Well,
little bit,
Gary
and it affects everybody. Like freezing
Gary
up your
told
phone
me to
lock screen.
oh,
Except
by
the
the way,
Jordan.
this is my new phone for the app.
all
See
right.
it? Is it
All
pretty?
right.
I got a really pretty new cover.
Okay.
But Gary told me to every day is to turn the phone off and then turn it back on. He says that will keep the and the MAXYMO app running smooth. He said if you
Right.
just turn your phone off and on every day.
Basically restarting because that way it refreshes the network connections. Is what you're doing. And sometimes it's good to go through. I was running a cache cleaner and it just all of a sudden it's like, okay, we'll clear 3 gigs, we'll clear 6 gigs. Now for the last 2 weeks it says, oh, we're going to be clearing 24 gig, potentially 24 gigs of whatever. And it only does 12. I'm like, I just got rid of the app. It's having issues. It can't, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I mean,
Okay.
but the minimum of restarting the phone and having a device that's got at least 3 gigs of RAM, preferably 4. I mean, to be able to run these multiple apps
Yeah.
is critical to
John,
having a smoother connection.
same question back to it.
I would say for me the biggest thing is the auto decline feature, because in my market there's a lot of long pickups in my market, and having to take my eyes off the road while I have a passenger in the car to look and see how far away is that pickup, how many miles, how long is it going to take to get there, is just it's a pain in the neck. There are a few times in my market when you want a long pickup, just simply because you would like to get paid to go back to where you're going to be getting rides. And with Uber, we get long distance pickup fees. Unfortunately, not with Lyft. That and the app, the fact that it automatically turns off the other app once you accept a ride on one platform is big too, because you're not fiddling with your phone.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is really when you're moving, not having to touch that phone while you're moving is a huge benefit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One thing as far as turning off, because of the muck with Uber, where things can change. I like the fact that, I don't know when he put it in, but the ability for once I accept an order, a food delivery, it'll go in and turn off the request for a new ride, essentially a new ride or new food order.
Right.
It turns that off, and then I don't have the same thing, especially like when you're out driving, say 35, 45, 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour on a highway. It's one less thing you have to worry about something else coming in all of a sudden. You're like, where is this one going?
Can I ask a question?
For an add-on?
Of course.
Okay, how does that work? Because I was doing
this
Uber
is-
Eats, and more Uber Eats kept coming in while I was still on that one order.
Right. But let's see here. With Uber Eats,
you can select
the latest version. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 6th one down, at least for me. It says stop new request. Attempt to take Uber offline during a ride to stop new request.
Oh, see, I'm learning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of see that?
Not really.
Well, I just turned my phone
not
back
really.
on.
Not really good enough
I
to
didn't
see the
figure.
details. But yeah, I mean,
No, but it's the concept.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things
It's
that
like
I know.
the outside for on, and the inside is, it's like right is on, left is off. That took me a while to figure out. On the sliders.
Yeah, I know that when I had the pleasure of talking to Bruce a different day a couple weeks ago, and we were just chatting about all this. And I know one of the things he said that would be awesome was if there was like multiple profiles so that you could always leave the auto accept on, but you could have different, this is what I'll accept today, or I guess I'll go to option profile B.
Yeah,
I'm willing to do
would
that
make
today.
sense.
You know,
Especially if
so
you're dedicated with
So Gary, get on that.
multiple apps.
I'll tell you, when you're on a quest and it's, you know, whatever, do 20 rides for an extra $100 or whatever, being able to narrow down, because right, you want to do the shortest rides possible in the least amount of time in order to complete a quest. And being able to say, you know what, I'm not picking up anything that's more than 10 minutes away or over 4 miles is great. Especially if it's a busy night. And like in my market, and it's probably similar in Syracuse too, Lisa, is like Friday nights and Saturday nights, you'll start getting you know, a $3 bonus for every single ride that you take on top of a quest that you're trying to complete. And so they have like these nightly quests and these weekly quests and these weekend quests. And so you want to stay in that area and pick up rides because it's a specific geographic area that they're giving you that, say, $3 a ride bonus. And being able to just like, okay, I'm going to narrow this down and really tighten up how far I'm willing to go for a ride really helps a lot. Especially on one of the nights where people are just bar hopping and you're taking them half a mile down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add my word on the importance of restarting every day and then weekly decache. When you use as many GPS apps and as many apps as we use, you know, because I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys have the Uber passenger and the Lyft passenger up so you can see where all the drivers are and you can put yourself place. You just got to, I call it the digital enema. And I've tried some cache apps, but I just like going into the apps and go to the ones and just delete it, do that weekly, restart. And yeah, and I love the fact that you can on the long trips, you know, going to what John was saying, you know, you can turn off long trips, you can turn on long trips, or you can say only long trips. Now I do Monday through Friday. I don't drive at night. I start out at about 8 o'clock. I finish by 4:30 or 5. I do over $1,000 a week in my small market. Today, I got a nice ride to Roanoke. That was $75. I stayed at the doctor's office. I got the ride to take her back. But I just love the filtering options, and you know, going back to the profile thing, you know, especially some of you who do food delivery, it would really be great to have a different profile to do, like from 11 o'clock to 1 or 2 or something else like that. You know, when you want to focus more on food delivery, but I just love the way the app works, and yeah.
Yeah, before we get too far, I do want to pull this up because it was a little ways back, and Thomas, we all know Thomas. Thomas, I'm guessing that by now the auto accept question has been answered, but if not, that was when they were talking about turning it off or on. So like if you have it on, all the parameters and filters that you set that you want to do in your market to take rides, auto accept will turn all of those filters on. If you turn it off, now you're going to just see the orders again. So I don't know if that quickly
and auto decline the same.
Yeah, so just to dig in a little bit more to that for Thomas. So the auto accept, you can select whether or not you want auto accept on a certain surge amount, a certain surge multiplier, distance, or time. So if it's one of those nights where things are going crazy and things are surging, right? You don't want to go 5 miles away to do a pickup. So you're going to set that thing and you're going to say, I only want pickups within this, 1 mile radius where it's surging. And so for Bruce and Brian, you guys have been using it longer. Do you know, does it filter on the auto accept? Is it just one of the items, or does it combine all of those items in order to auto accept? So
It would
because
combine, but as I say, you can also by setting a time reference, you can decide if you really want to take it or not.
right.
Mhm.
Right.
But if you don't care, you set it to 0 and it'll do it automatically, and you won't see it.
Yeah, I don't do auto decline a lot. I do auto accept. That way, depending if it gets a little slow, it'll still present me that 12-minute away ride or that 16-minute away ride, and I can decide, do I want to take that? But then there's sometimes when I do use auto decline, and I just want to say, no app that I've ever tried has more options for filtering than MAXYMO does. I mean, you can go as deep as you want to go, and it's just, it's powerful.
Very granular. It's very granular. And Bruce, you dropped a gem earlier that I don't think I don't know if Steve caught it. You said you took a lady to the doctor's office. It was a long trip,
Mhm.
and you stayed there and waited until she was done so you could take her back.
Yep.
I think a lot of times people, they do a long trip and they're like, oh crap, now I got to try and get a ride back. How long does a doctor's appointment take? 30 minutes, 45 minutes, right?
Right.
It could be even shorter. You just turn off the app for about 15 minutes and wait till you get that person who's got to go back home.
Yep.
And now you've got all those miles covered instead of just driving deadheading back.
I asked her on the way.
That's what I was going to say.
I went to a bagel shop, got some coffee, came back, turned the app on. I gave her a card. I said, text me when you're going to, because this is a medical ride. So they have these transportation companies that outsource to Lyft and Uber. So yeah, that's great. And I love also the passenger rating. I mean, do you filter with passenger rating?
Before real quick we move on from that though, I do want to mention something about that though. That's great to do that. However, you can be sitting outside that doctor's office and be the closest person to that patient and still not get the ping. That is a fact.
That's true, but the patient can cancel the ride if they don't get you.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, they might have 3 drivers that haven't had a ride in an hour, and even though you're the closest, then any of the 3, all 3 could receive that ping before you even.
Yeah,
Uber does strange things.
Yeah, my experience with Lyft in this market is 100% of the time I get the ride back. I make sure that I'm the closest person, and that's been my experience in my market.
And pre-working it out too, like if you take the person and then in the car you're like, hey, here's my number, text me. Obviously, then you're on guard to it should be right now. And
I had a similar experience, except that in this case he wanted to go to being into Vinsanity to answer their text. Yes, I'm in the Eugene Springfield area of Oregon. So I was doing passenger rides out of Portland, and this was a point where he was at a hotel near the airport and he's from Hawaii. They don't have casinos in Hawaii. So he wanted to go to Ilahai, which is a Hawaiian name, which is at the time I don't think it was even a year old. Casino up in Washington State, about an hour away, 45 minutes, an hour away. And at that point knew that at 1 a.m, it probably wasn't going to have anyone else in the area, just because I know the general area from north of Vancouver, Washington. Okay. And so talking about it, and then we put in the request eventually, and then brought him back. So same thing. You just kind of keep an eye out on some of those just to make sure they're wanting to get back.
Yeah.
Make sure they have a ride back. Even if you
I think that's all in our gig economy worker blood. We all know how to play a situation. Remember when it was all called the hustle, guys? Come on.
Yeah, I would have done it for free anyway.
Yeah.
Back south, and then eventually get home down to Eugene, Springfield.
Okay, so before I move into this next piece, I was looking through them. So again, everybody, put any questions you have in there. I did see the one comment I put up there, but I just want to read one thing while these guys are looking at this, and then if any of them have an opinion on this, they can say it. But I want to go over the price real quick. So by the way, guys, if you're listening to this today or in the replay or down the road or whenever, and you're liking what you hear, MAXYMOapp.com, you can learn more about the technology behind it at MiddletonTech.com. It is $4.99 a month. It is $49.99 if you pay for the entire year, and you can get a 14-day free trial. However, I have talked to a handful of people, and I don't know anybody that did the free trial and didn't keep it. So,
I did. Started off with the free trial, and then eventually just went gung ho and just.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Full year.
Yeah,
and
so
I've paid for 2 full years.
I just wanted to point that out. That at $4.99, it's a deal. But at $49.99, he's giving you 2 months free too on top of the deal.
Yeah, I think my first year was $29.99. So he brought it up, but not a whole lot compared to another one that disappeared for a while.
For a tool of this power, that is
like $100 a year,
more than fair. I think $50 for a tool that does, and that's what we're going to move into now. Is that I would like to know if so. Bruce, I'll start with you on this. So over the years, and I know this is tough to break it down, but is there any metric or a way that you can tell us how any kind of metric that tells us like how differently you earn by using MAXYMO?
Well, I mean, I
know it's a case by case basis and how you set your filters and everything, but for you.
Yeah, my experience is my earnings are higher at MAXYMO than what it was when I've been doing this 4.5 years after I retired. And so almost half of that time was, pre-MAXYMO. And just to be able to, because when I was new, I was concerned about my cancellation rate and everything. And so you can get Lyft rides and Uber rides at the same time, and and just having to manage all that and worry about it and touching your phone and everything. I just feel like that I am we all call ourselves independent contractors. I feel more an independent contractor using MAXYMO than trying to leverage having both of those apps running at the same time. And our market is different than you guys' market. And, I have been able over time to refine my filters. And that's why I say the thing about the profiles, that would be just like, wow, to be able to have a morning profile or an evening profile or a profile that I use when I'm at the airport, because, we have 7 flights a day. It's a regional airport. It's not as big an airport as, Denver is and places like that. But I just feel like I have more control over it, and that I'm leveraging, and I'm like mining for the gems that are going to increase my opportunity to earn more. So I just feel great. 5 days. I just do Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock till 4:30 or something else like that, and it's just working great.
And it looks like David Pickerel of Para agrees.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for joining us, David. But yeah, so do you find that it's making you feel more like an independent contractor because you're not hearing all the bing bong and the craziness going on with the app, because you've set your filter and you've just said, listen, I only want what I want?
Yeah, I know, because yeah, Lyft is trying to get me to take that 18-minute ride to get me more downtown in Lynchburg so that they can do some other things. I don't necessarily want to do that. I know there's a flight coming in at 10:30 a.m. and I want to be at the airport for the opportunities there, because I like long rides. I've done 4 trips to DC from Lynchburg. That's 3.5 hours. I've done 4 trips to Charlotte. That's 3 hours. My longest ride, 3 hours and 46 minutes to Norfolk. And so, yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yes.
I know. And I know that that's pretty much the best way that you can give the answer. But I know that somewhere in that there is a way that you're earning more money, whether it be you're saving on gas, that you've ruled out just crap jobs that even if they somehow 1 out of 10 of them pay a little better than the others, the other 9 don't. So somewhere, and I know I was trying before this roundtable today to come up with some kind of is there a formula to even kind of look at this? It's hard because
so Steve, I'm looking at my stats. I keep a lot of stats in Gridwise, and it keeps track of my per mile earnings. At the beginning of March, before I was using MAXYMO, I was earning about $1 per mile. And last week, and this is all UberX, I'm earning over $1.50 a mile.
So you're taking the time, the per mile rate, all of that, and you're saying that straight comparison.
Yep, I'm driving fewer miles. I'm driving fewer hours,
right?
And I'm making more money.
Yep.
So less wear and tear on the car, less seat time for me. Because I've got a full-time job on top of doing this, so less seat time is a lot better. And so it makes it. I mean, that right there, in just the 3 weeks that I've used it, I've already paid for it.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what it's getting at. Maybe I should have taken this the other way around and started with you and Lisa, because Bruce has been doing it so long that he's probably just used to the good earnings, and he's just like, well, I just love the app. So I mean, I forget how bad you can earn without it. So I mean, it's probably very hard for him to put in, well, I probably make a little bit more, because if he goes back in his records, they're all going to be the same because he's been using it for a while. So maybe I did do that a little backwards.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at, like I said, a lot of long pickups in my market. And sometimes you feel like, sometimes you're sitting there and you're going, okay, I'll take the long pickup just to kind of get the ball rolling, or because I think it's going to take me in a location where I can get more rides. But when you look at going from, spending 15 minutes to go do a pickup to 5 minutes, that's going to save you so much time.
Right. Well, I mean, just when you said the 150, that was kind of what I was looking for, was some number, even if that's not for everybody, because again, it won't be, but I mean, let's just use an easy number. You went from making $100 an hour and spending 7 hours to making 150 and spending 4 or 5. I mean, I know that's not exact, but I'm just kind of trying to put out there what's going on by using this app.
Well, and cutting down on the wear and tear on my vehicle, the difference, it may not sound like a lot, but the difference from driving 4 miles to pick someone up and 5 miles, over 50 or 100 rides in a week, that pays off. That pays off over the entire year, because you're not getting paid to go pick up a customer most of the time. You're only getting paid when there's a butt in the back seat.
Right.
And so you want to cut down that amount of time to go and get that person. And so you're spending more time earning instead of using up your vehicle to go give someone a ride.
Right.
Yeah, and they fool you by throwing in, oh, here's the mileage, but yet you only say, here's 6 miles that you think you're going to get paid for, but you only take like a 2-mile drop.
Oh, don't even get me started.
And that's all you get paid. It's where he's coming from.
We actually had about 2.5 years ago. It ended up on YouTube. I wish I could put my finger on the video, but this lady drove 15 miles to pick someone up and take them for a $3.90 ride. And she was furious. She's in the car blowing up and going nuts over it. And the guy in the back seat's like, I'm sorry,
Well, yeah, I had one a couple miles only to go, like 2 or 3 blocks. But then again, it was college students. It was pouring down, right? It was ladies. So in a sense, it was a safety aspect based on the neighborhood of the University of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense. You have to. It's the mindset of where your environment. Some of those make more sense to go longer or a short drop
Yeah.
when there's a safe. When you know there can be safer for them to have that short ride than the other way around.
I mean, if you live in rural outside of Lincoln, Nebraska, or you live downtown Denver, your parameters, your filters are going to be set night and day from each other. I mean,
Right.
I mean, to each his own. It's not like you can send a screenshot of how you set yours to other people and say, "Hey, this is a good start," because it's probably not for them.
Yeah, you're going to have to experiment with it. You're going to have to fiddle around with it for a few weeks to find out like that sweet spot. And you know, if things slow down, you widen your parameters a little bit. If like they're going to do in about 2 months here, it's going to go crazy because it's tourist season. You're going to narrow down those parameters because you have no need. So my town is going to go from 30,000 people to almost 75,000 people in June, end of June, beginning of July. So I'm not doing long pickups. I'm not driving more than a mile or two to pick someone up because the population density just doubled. There's no reason for me to do that.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of people that'll start getting their tax refunds if they're getting any. So it eventually filters and then kind of fades off.
Yeah. So before we move on to me checking some questions and a final question, and then we'll see what we've got here and the questions, I want to take that question to Lisa as well, though. I want to know, because you've only been on it a few days, what have you found that already is like really stood out to you as like, whoa, that's cool, or something you've been like, wait, I set that way wrong?
Well, for one, I figured out the auto decline on the UberEats. Come on, guys.
And she's a fan of the driver utility helper.
And I'm really not good with technology, so I'm still learning this phone. It's an Android, and I'm an iPhone user.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is a thing.
Yeah.
But
I mean, but even if you haven't been accepting and you're just kind of playing with it, have you seen things like, gosh, this is cool because this isn't what I would have seen before?
Well, I've turned on UberEats.
Okay.
Which I didn't do before because I didn't know, Uber would, where they would send me, how much they were sending me. I mean, I just didn't bother with it.
Right.
Because the fact that it was just annoying because I probably figured, 75% of it's going out towards Syracuse and I want to stay west.
Right.
So I was able to set the, how far I wanted to go. I want to go like 4 miles from where my area is, because where my area is really good with DoorDash. It's good with Rideshare too, but I don't really know on Uber Eats because I've been tip baited a couple of times in Syracuse. I just don't want the headache. You know what I'm saying?
So you're setting so you've gone back to Uber Eats, which you wouldn't have probably without this app, and you've just set the parameters that, hey, listen, I at least need to be paid this, or don't even show me it.
That's why I set my filters a little bit higher with my miles the way I did. I think I set it for 4 or 5 miles because where I work most of the time, it's about a 4-mile ride. It's to the edge of Syracuse, so I just set it so that way there's a part of Syracuse where it's all condominiums. They're brand new, but I'm not going myself deep into Syracuse where I won't have to deal with the tip baiting type thing. Right. So I mean, I'm playing around with it. I'm still not very trusting of Uber Eats with the tip baiting thing. I'll probably get there with this app because I love this app and I've been playing with it. And now I figured out with these guys who've been doing it forever that you change your filters during different days, during different times. So I haven't done that yet because I've just stayed with the same filters because I'm new.
Right. I would
so I'm
especially think in
figuring it
your
out.
market because Syracuse has a pretty big size for the size town it is. It has a pretty big size school, college. So I mean,
Which
like I would imagine those filters might come in. I don't know when
I only
when
like
I have
the
to deal with college
college
students.
for. I only like it for Quest. They don't
Right.
really tip up there, so I only
Right.
do it for Quest bonus for Uber.
Yeah. Okay, so I will move on to the final question, and then I will check the chat, see how we're doing. What's up, Xander? What's up, Driven Dad Tony? What's up, David Pickrell again? I know I saw some other people in here, and I saw Dasher Pass must have popped through because she put Vinsanity in a timeout, and Vinsanity had took care of that. She must have like just sat on her phone or something because she wouldn't have done that.
She's probably watching from the background.
She's probably working and she just hit the screen, is my guess. But yeah, Roy's here, and so I thought I saw Kim was in here. So yeah, I just wanted to Gig Lebowski. I just wanted to shout out to everybody that we are coming near the end. I'm going to ask this one last question, and then please, if you have questions, I will go back and I will make sure we address all of them. So if you have a question too, maybe put a question mark next to it, so that because some of these are just chats that's going on between people in the chat. So put a question mark if you want me to address it to the panel. But here's the last question that I have. So if you were talking, and I pretty much all of you probably have one-on-one, as all of us have with Gary. He's always busting his tail. Yep. He's always getting back to everybody. But if you were having a one-on-one, which we've all had, but if you were having a one-on-one with Gary, and he needed to know from you one feature you would change, one you don't really care about or use too much, and then last, what feature would you never want him to touch, change, or anything? It needs to stay the same. And then, Brian, we can start with you, go to Bruce, and then move down to the two newbies.
Well, considering I mainly use it for UberEats as far as the filtering, I'm fine where it's at. I mean,
there's not anything that you would like go, I wish it had this, or I wish this did this, or
not until Bruce made his reference of the profiles, especially maybe a time reference time schedule.
So and there's not like something that gets in the way, or at least which if Gary sat down with you and he said, listen, I'm going to be changing all of this around, and he said, you can tell me one feature that I won't touch for sure, it'll stay exactly the same, but everything else is going to change. What would it be? Let me at least get that. Auto accept.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's what I would think. So.
Yeah, the auto accept out of the phone, because those go hand in hand. I mean, really.
So Bruce, how about you?
Yeah, I'm the same way. This app would be worth the price if all you had was auto accept and auto turning off the other apps while you're on a ride.
Which is what it started as, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's all it did when Gary first invented it,
but
8 years ago.
These features, these filters, they're all important during different times of the year. If he were to change any of these or take away any of these filters, it might hurt the small market guy, but not the big market guy. I mean, I just love the complexity of this, and if you're going through this, and I'm sure Brian has had this experience, it's like overwhelming, but as you dive into it and as you change things, as you tweak things, you say, hey, this week I'm gonna try a whole new thing. And the other thing that I really like, I tell you what, Gary has done really a work of art in trying, when Uber, when you auto decline 2 rides, they log you out. Mm-hmm. Now Lyft is starting to do that, not as much, but they're doing it. And you're at the airport and you decline 3 rides and you don't notice that Lyft has logged you out, and that may be a great ride coming. So he has worked really hard to try to when they auto log you out to get you back in. And I just cannot tell you how important that is to me.
Yeah, that actually is a huge benefit.
Yep.
Especially if you're doing passenger. Not so much on the food side, maybe, but definitely when it comes to passenger, that's a huge factor. Being able to keep you logged back in, because there are times where before I use MAXYMO that before I knew it, I'm like sitting there for like 30, 45 minutes somewhere. Like I look down, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm logged out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the same thing, the 3 strikes and you're done. You're off.
Yeah.
3 missed and you're off. Grubhub has 3 missed and you're off too. At least they used to.
Yeah. I love these gig companies using 3 strike rules and stuff. I got some strikes on them, so I got my beefs with them not being fair and honest. So let's
yeah. That's another topic for another day.
Yeah, John.
Yeah.
You know,
so
I know it hasn't been as long, but
I'm a tech guy, so I got lots of ideas. And
by the way, the idea that I said was Bruce's, so that he actually did have one idea that he would add. Because when I talked to him before, I really thought that was an awesome feature too, like multi-profiles.
Yeah.
You know.
So don't ever touch auto accept, auto decline. I don't think he would ever do that. And maybe Gary can tell me this or not. I don't care for the GPS tracking. I would like to be able to just disable the GPS tracking. I've got another app that I do that with. I do like the fact that it keeps. I want to keep track of all the trips. That's great. But the GPS I can do without. Just put a little less strain on the phone with all the GPS apps going on. And then there's a couple of features I would like to see added. Yes, a screenshot feature would be good too. Being able to temporarily pause the filters without actually going in and changing and adjusting them. Just have a pause button, because like I said, like I took a guy out, I ended up doing a long ride, like 12 miles out of town. And it would have been it would have been good to get a ride back to cover some of those miles and some of that time without having to, go in and futz around with the filters. And then the other thing I'd like to be able to do is, if I'm on one app like Uber or Lyft, when I get within 1 mile of my destination, I'd like to be able to fire up the other app.
Yep.
Instead of waiting until I get there, so that I could have another ride in the queue if it's a little slow,
Okay. So Lisa, I don't think I need to make this a good. Bruce, what would you ask Lisa after 4 days on MAXYMO? Well, I'm gonna let you have I'm gonna let you have her question here.
Can I just say this before I forget? Now, he does have the screenshot feature on the app. So it takes screenshots as soon as sorry, I've been sick. It does take screenshots for DoorDash. That would be a good idea to do that, like he said, to screenshot your rides in UberEats orders when you accept them on the MAXYMO app.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
Well,
he does have the screenshot on MAXYMO at the end. So if you do have the GPS tracking, it'll save that in a folder based on the day. So that is a bonus, because all the storage he's taken away because it was eating up too many resources and costing him too much on the data. So that aspect on the other end, at the end of the day, that helps. But yeah, you're right. Throughout the day, it'd be helpful, because I'm in a habit of doing my own screenshots. But if it's set to where it pops up and takes the screenshot of the offer, then when it pops up, that's a bonus.
Yeah, I don't have a question for Lisa, but I just have an encouragement to you. I'm just giving you some grandfatherly advice here. Stick with it, experiment around with it, and listen, the Facebook group for MAXYMO is a really great community. You post questions and people will give you suggestions and answers. And if you ever want to, set up a meeting with Grandpa Bruce Turner at gmail.com, I'd be glad to help you in any way that I can with
Appreciate
stuff that I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only am I learning the apps, but I'm also learning how to do it on an Android. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta say this too. So I'm about to just roll through these. Let me just roll through and see if Gary actually posted a question, which I thought was funny. Okay. So yeah, we already covered that. But so Bud Soda, you did put one up, but I saw Gary was answering a bunch of questions for you during this. So
Yeah.
does everyone feel like your profitability? You were late, man. We talked about that, I think.
Yes, profitability.
Yeah, we did.
Profitability
Yeah.
has definitely gone up.
Yep. I mean, John's proof was only based on a short term, but he was talking about he's making 1.5 times as much with less hours worked. So, I mean, that's just his market. That's just his experience, but nonetheless.
Less fan on the vehicle, although every now and again it is nice having those long trips because it opens up the engine on your vehicle, gets things flowing. So
I commute 40 minutes to work, so.
Oh, wow.
So you counteract that, but not everybody does that. And it's always, as I say, every now and again, it's good to do that for your own car too. Like clearing the cache on the phone, you're clearing the engine cache, so to speak,
Right.
from all the stop and go.
Right.
Unless you got an electric car.
So I want to, first of all, I want to thank everybody who joined us in chat. And of course, all my panelists. I want to thank Bruce, Brian, Lisa, John for joining us. But I really want to take a minute here to thank Gary as well for everything he does. Gary's a one-man show. He literally, it was touched on earlier. He's a fighter for the gig worker. He takes this stuff first-handed. It's not like these people were saying that Gary will answer your question himself, get back to you. He'll get back to you that day or that hour. I mean, Gary does not put something off. He does not write it on his calendar to do tomorrow. He gets it done on the spot. I mean, if he's doing something, obviously, and he doesn't see it for an hour, of course it's going to have to wait that hour. But
you just give him time.
Yeah, but as soon as he sees it, he's not putting that off. He's dealing with it. I know Gary well enough like that.
Yeah.
So I want to thank Gary for everything he does, because I think he's one of the hardest people working on things in the gig space to make it so that the gig workers can spend their time working smarter, not harder.
Yeah. And he even moved from one state down to Florida with all this. So that in itself is a strain of its own.
He also taught himself how to code. So all of this, he's just been, all of us in here think Gary's a pretty amazing guy. I'm just putting it out there for those who listen later and don't know Gary.
Yeah. Hey, Gary, I'm driving to Melbourne, Florida in October. I'm going to take you to Thai Bistro and I'm going to give you a big hug.
I don't know if that's a threat or a promise, Gary, but who's Gary? Okay, this is an important question. Okay, so new here, who's Gary? Gary is Gary Middleton, MiddletonTech.com, or you can find him on YouTube. You can look up Middleton Tech as well. It'll be in the show notes here. So
also goes by another name occasionally on Facebook.
Yeah, I think he stopped doing it, but
he's every now and then he's good.
Sometimes he's Joe.
Facebook,
Just I know some people are like, I don't know Gary, I know Joe. I'm like,
same guy.
Yes, the same guy. So, but yeah, I just wanted to say, and there we go. I am Gary.
I am Groot.
It's officially Gary, but I think the alter ego.
But I mean, I think everybody in here feels the same way. I mean, if anything, there's just more things to add about Gary. He's one of the nicest people I know.
Yep.
He's just a good guy, and all around, I don't see any reason why. First of all, why you wouldn't do the 14 free day trial. I know sometimes you don't want to do a lot of free trials because you might have to cancel it, and you're like, what if I don't remember? But if you're in the gig economy and you're going to do it, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it right now because I'm working the next 10 days in a row. Just set that 10 days as I'll cancel it after that if I don't like it, because my challenge will be that you will like it. And again, then the price rolls in, and the price at what it is per month is fair. That 2 months free to pay for a year up front. This is a fair price for an over-the-top A+ app.
Hey, Gary, add an auto renew feature.
Gary doesn't ask for credit cards up front.
Right.
Only when you get it, so you don't have to worry about if you don't want it.
Yeah.
Then the auto decline feature just disappears off your app.
Yeah, you will all of a sudden you'll just be going back to log in and get it though. That's
And
see,
you'll notice
Gary's
the
smart.
note.
He doesn't want to capture you and trick you into having to have it. Oh, I forgot to cancel. For the one guy, let's say, who doesn't. Instead, he's like, you'll just open it, it won't work.
Yeah.
Like, oh my, it's over.
The old school, just the license expires and that's it. Old school apps.
No credit card for free trial plus 100. Oh.
Oh, this is a
I
good
got you,
100
David.
points,
Got you, David.
for not having it.
So yeah, I always like seeing David from Para in here too, supporting Gary's stuff. These guys are two people out doing a lot of things. But Gary, you have some amazing apps, and we didn't even tackle into the Duh app, but Lisa did a little.
I
So that was
tried.
cool.
I tried,
And we
Gary.
didn't touch on Flex Alert at all. But if you work for I don't, but if you work the Amazon Flex app, check out Flex Alert. It does that thing, so you don't have to keep tapping to get it. It's kind of like an auto accept for Flex, but where you don't have to sit there and just keep refresh and keep going for it. So it just takes the annoyance out of it. But the other ones have full tweaking features, filter settings and things like that, where you can make it work for any market you're in. And I can't say enough about Gary. If you have any issues and you download it, I know that I'm even okay to say this. Call Gary directly. You're not going to talk to anybody else. You're going to talk to Gary. He will talk to you about it. So, again, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you to my panel, and go download MAXYMO.
I figured I may as well go back on UberEats. I figured it was about to end. I just stood still.
Have a good night, guys.